Savitz, I could...
You make an exception.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Janetzky, I've had the pleasure of casting Janetzky alongside TJ. Actually, he qualified for a King of the Hill series that we were casting.
That's right, yeah.
And I quite liked his performance during that series. I thought he was very aggressive. I liked seeing that style of play from him because oftentimes when I see a new face, the one thing that I have to really stand out from them as a player is the lack of aggression. I think that a lot of times players who find their way onto stage moments where they're up against a big name, they play timid and they play very safe. And I think that the higher quality your opponent is, the more willing you should be to be aggressive. Because how big of a play edge are you really going to get over them?
Yeah, I can verify for a fact that Admirable and I attend a lot of events together. We don't actually end up stood behind a desk casting together quite often. So what that means is that we're quite often together in the green room watching Hearthstone. And I can verify that nothing makes this man more angry than people missing damage.
It's just free. They're giving it to you. They want you to take it. Speaking of free. It's a free kill.
I was going to say, speaking of free, this game's going to be free for Sjow. Like, I thought that's what about your throw.
I mean, Janetzky did drop patches this game. It's much more difficult. Coin, this is like a weird rogue matchup where coin still matters, but I don't think coin is quite as powerful as a look back to, say, the Gadget and Auctioneer mirror matches we used to see, where coin was fairly paramount in those matchups. But in this one, I feel the attacker's initiative can offset it to some degree.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there, Mr. Nathan, Admirable Zamora. There's actually periods, from my perspective, during the Miracle Rogue mirrors where going first was actually advantageous, particularly when Small-Time Buccaneer came in the metagame. Because then the initiative of being able to go Buck first and being the first to play Tomb Pillager and all that kind of stuff was actually very, very powerful. I think in this matchup, one of the absolute biggest breakpoints is just being able to coin Vilespine Slayer. I think that's absolutely insane in the matchup, and you see that's an exact combination that Sjow is looking at right now.
There's no doubt that that's a very powerful card. In fact, some would have said it was going to be a staple when that card was spoiled.
Tell me more.
Well, some people thought it was going to be unable to replace Azure Drake. That it was going to be almost unplayable with the way that rogues were built.
I never said
that.
All right.
Somebody recalls.
Check the VOD. I never said it was going to be unplayable. I said that it may be being overrated by a lot of people, and I was probably still very wrong about that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I was wrong about Bittertide Hydra. You were correct about that. Credit where credit's due.
Thanks, buddy.
But shots fired where they are justice.
You're a much more difficult target than Raven.
I don't know. I kind of want to agree with you, but it's just not the same making fun of Raven if he's not here.
He's right there. We can see him. He's down there somewhere. He'll look up and look sad and forlorn. Yeah, there you go.
He had a smile.
Okay.
This guy's tough.
Shout out to Raven.
Patches essentially just being used as a combo activator here. It healed for 2 because of the ability to take care of the 3 damage and then unbuff the additional patches to take it out with the dagger. But it was more or less just a combo activator in that position.
Yeah, we are somewhat ignoring this interesting card in Janetzky's hand. This tech of the Lotus Assassin that's ready and waiting for this turn.
Did he not play a Swash on turn 1? Is that not where that's come from?
Did he play a Swash on turn 1?
Maybe.
He played a Firefly on turn 1.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's a natural Lotus Assassin. It's a stealth minion, and when it kills a minion, it re-stealths.
Yeah.
This card seems quite powerful in this matchup in particular. The 5-drop that is worse versus Priest, as it can be Dragonfire Potioned, but here, it's not getting Vilespined.
Yes.
It's not getting traded, but it is getting Scale Banned.
That is the better outcome for Janetzky, because that means he can just trade straight through that and get re-stealthed as a 5-1, ready to be incredibly annoying. He gets himself a free Shadow Rager out of this position.
But that's great with the Bone Mare setup, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, this turn he's got Vilespine available if he wants to actually clear off this Scalebane. And suddenly things are looking quite scary. I like that Sjow has been very diligent about his use of this coin and trying to land the first Bone Mare. I think that's a very important facet of coin in this matchup. But Janetzky's going to answer that back.
Yeah, this Bone Mare is going to have essentially very little impact because there is going to be a stealth 7-1. So Sjow makes a 7-7 with the Bone Mare on his SI7. And yeah, he can pick up one value trade on the way, but there is just a minion that's already picked up value waiting to take care of that on the flip side.
I think the story that we're looking at here is, from my perspective, was there ever an opportunity for Janetzky to actually push damage in this matchup? I don't think it's been there at all. And so resources, as they start wearing thin, starts to benefit Sjow. He's got a heavier hand. He drew an extra card this game because he's on coin, and he didn't draw patches. He got value straight up from his. This is turning into a losing battle for Janetzky. And mind you, a minion with stealth cannot taunt. So if he Bone Mares this and it kills a minion, it goes right back into stealth.
With 11 damage being threatened behind that.
And that's why I look at that aggression moment.
Yeah.
Without drawing patches, Janetzky might have been able to utilize that attacker's initiative to get damage in. That's a big factor in this matchup, is when you take away one player's ability to play for value, and the trade-off be that they're just eating damage in the meantime. At a certain point, you hit the breaking moment where Leroy Jenkins is lethal. A timely Cold Blood is lethal. Janetzky not being able to chip away at that damage means that he's playing a straight-up value game at this point, and it's a losing battle right now.
This guy's
I
tough.
think Janetzky's going to try and pick up the full clear instead to deny the threat of Bone Mare coming out from Sjow.
Is he using the 7-1 to clear? I think he's holding it, maybe.
No.
Oh, wow. It's going to be a full clear.
I don't think that play makes a great deal of sense unless your mentality is to full clear. So as soon as I saw that play get initiated, I was pretty confident that the 7-1 was going to take care of the trade.
And now Janetzky's all in. Like, this is the moment where he's going to try to seize 13 damage from the board or wipe out some super important threat from Sjow and hope that that's enough.
So many options.
I like this a lot. I will say that I like Deckhand Bone Mare a lot as well. Wipes out the SI7 agent. Keeps you protected.
Well, there's no dagger in play right now, so the deckhand wouldn't have charge.
Oh my gosh. I just forgot. That's the second idiot forget moment.
Maybe casting with me just makes people idiots. Maybe that explains Raven this whole time.
Wow, you're like an intelligence black hole.
Yeah, it's possible, right?
I don't think it's possible. I think it's just what it is now.
Probable. Nay, likely.
That is why everyone thinks that you say stuff wrong, is because they just lose the ability to see the right thing when
What do
they
you mean
hear
I
you.
say stuff wrong?
Like people like who criticize like Sottle's an idiot. And I'm like, no, Sottle's very smart. You're sucking their intelligence and taking it for yourself. You are the Blood Reaver Gul'dan of real life intelligence.
Wow. Suddenly this is all coming together, Admiral.
So many options.
Breakthrough.
Yeah. We should publish our findings as paper and submit it to a scientific journal for peer review.
I'll tell you what I'm going to publish right here is this Bone Mare onto Edwin Van Cleef and then smack Sjow in the face.
I'm going to publish the hell out of this Bone Mare.
That is Edwin Van Pyroblast now.
Sorry,
Holy.
what?
He just dealt 10 damage.
I understand the reference. Edwin Van Pyro. Thank God you don't write flavor text.
Hey, lights.
It's not my strong suit.
No, okay.
Now, flavor styling a card, I can do that. Flavor text, I'm lost.
Okay.
That is an art.
It's looking very much like Janetzky might have just put together a way here. The Bone Mare can come down to make this can very, very irritating. The Lich King can come down to put a huge taunt in the way as well, but Janetzky is really just by the skin of his teeth gripping this board initiative with just the last couple of resources he's had available to him.
Yeah, the size of Edwin means that Bone Mare for Sjow does not offer a valuable trade.
Right.
It is strictly for clearing. If he clears in this spot, it's 9 more damage lined up with SI7 Agent, Bone Mare, and Dagger. And this is where the attacker's initiative for Janetzky, he's mitigating and taking away that spot where Sjow is playing for value, and he's getting a lot more value. But something he's not getting is a lot more life. 10,
Hey,
8,
lights
that's
out.
that's lethal.
That's lethal.
Oh my gosh!
Bone Mare goes back on the Edwin. What's an Edwin that deals 14 damage called, Admirable? Because that's what Janetzky has just used to win this game.
It's called a Janetzky, is what it is.
Edwin van Janetzky.
That is insane. And Janetzky, Bone Mare's not his only out in that spot. You're looking at Leroy Jenkins.
Yep.
You're looking at Cold Blood.
Yep.
And then it's Bone Mare. But outside of that, Lich King is a strong draw there. Almost any minion that's going to provide multiple presence, like thinking Sarnak Chain Gang, Scalebane would have been fine in that spot. Janetzky had set himself up to get a lot of valuable draws, and that was because of his aggressive play and moving all in on that Edwin turn where he cleared the board.
I think you set it up beautifully at the start when you said you'd watched Janetzky in the past, and if there was one thing he wasn't afraid to do, it's going up against a more experienced player and just sticking to his game plan, which is being aggressive. He is up against a, most would argue, dramatically more experienced player in Sjow right now, and his aggression paid out huge in that game.
And look at the next two matchups he's got, Druid and Paladin.
Yep.
And we saw a show on broadcast yesterday. He is playing Murloc Paladin, and that can be a tough matchup for Murloc Paladin. So now that Janetzky has shut the door, Joe's got to look to open up that window because he's got some comeback to do.
There is the Galacta Crawler, though.
I've heard that card can be good against Rogue, but I feel like on the broadcasts yesterday, we saw it sit in player's hand for a very long time.
Yeah, we saw a Galacta stuck in hand against a draw that was like Firefly, SI, Saronite or something was the opening. I think there may have even been a Kalateth in there as well, bridging the gap. So obviously Rogue has draws that they can put together where they do dodge the Galacta, but of course, sight unseen. You queue up ladder and someone says to you, hey, you're about to play a Rogue, would you like a Galacta Crawler in your opening hand?
Yes, I would, thank you.
There you go.
I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a Galacta Crawler today. And what was it you were saying that the Rogue's opening hand was? It was like Firefly, SI, Saronite, or something like that?
Yeah.
This game, I think, is going to be quite decent for Sjow because he does have the Rock Pool and the Rallying Blade as well. And this is one of the starts where you really can disrupt what Janetzky will bring to the table here and find that central turn where you take such a big lead that Janetzky's just not coming back from it.
So many options.
But it starts with Vilefin Inquisitor. To that same review, I want to call back, by the way. We ignored Rockpool Hunter. I believe the quote from me was, who's going to play Murlocs?
Yeah.
And then you two went, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And we skipped.
Yeah. We just went, yeah, Murloc, move on.
If Murlocs are good, sure, this card's great.
Yeah.
Next card.
Which, you know, is an accurate review when you really break it down.
Come on, who's going to play Murlocs?
Yeah. Has Janetzky already been forced into the position where he just needs a 4/4 Edwin to contest the board?
You know, I think I like that, and one of the reasons I like it is because it does put pressure on Sjow to still have another answer to this. And so there's a lot of nightmare situations that happen here. I think that Rallying Blade is probably the best one of them, but a Murloc War Leader here would be devastating
Yes.
from Show's spot.
Janetzky just doesn't even really have good game against the Rallying Blade play, though. He can't exactly just develop another SI into it. Like, what is his turn when this Rallying Blade comes down and takes care of this?
And now my question is, should Sjow actually be trading into this Edwin Van Cleef, or should he just be pushing? Because you represent paying 12 life to just get your extra minion on board. If Janetzky wants to make this weird ultimate play of like, well, I'll just attack you back for 4. Then there's Fear of Blessing of Kings and so on and so forth. That's a weird opening. You don't often see turn 2 coin Edwin Van Cleef to try and fight back.
Not anymore, no, not with this deck. I mean, it was quite often a play that you saw from the Miracle Rogues where they were just using Edwin very often to just fight back against early starts, but Tempo Rogue is so used to just being in charge of these early game situations, and then they can use that initiative to save up for a huge 6/6, 8/8, 10/10 Edwin later on.
That's right, and if Janetzky had chosen to be in charge in this spot, he would have met a very quick demise, I think. But it doesn't look like it's going to get much better for him.
Nope. Just throwing an SI into a Rallying Blade.
In Show's spot right here, I would love to see him play the Galacta Crawler he had kept in Hero Power to entice Janetzky to play a pirate at that point.
Ooh. Yeah, if a Galaka is getting played, I'm pretty sure you play the left one, right?
I would play the one that I kept, for sure.
Yes, I agree with
Which I don't know which one that was.
I'm pretty sure it was the left one.
Pretty sure it was the left one. But now it's, I mean, Captain doesn't even really do anything in this spot. And this is an important match for Janetzky to be taking the lead and for Sjow to be making the comeback. I mean, both these players are sitting at the 4-2 spot, which means a third loss will mathematically eliminate you from top 16 contention.
Yeah, we talked earlier about how the size of the Swiss field is meaning that 7-2 isn't a guaranteed in. On the flip side of that coin, a 6-3 is a guaranteed out. Yeah. So your third loss, is lights out for you in this situation.
Saronite proving his worth. This card is so good.
It's all right.
It's doing pretty good here.
It's doing good work.
You know, something that's weird to think about, if Sjow had played both Galaka Crawlers, would he be fighting better in this spot or worse? And would that give him would that give up too much versus Pirates at that point?
He would definitely be in a better spot this turn, but I would absolutely agree with the follow-up point, which I think it does just give up too much, especially when you know your opponent hasn't played any Pirates yet. It's going to happen. You're going to get that final nail in the coffin with the Galaka Crawler eating a Pirate at some point.
And if your opponent never plays a Pirate, you might just win anyway, because they never played a Pirate. And Sjow's got a couple of very good-looking turns coming up.
So many options.
You know, this is really weird. I don't think I've seen a Saronite Chain Gang Shadow Stepped the entire time that Knights of the Frozen Throne has been released. And in the first match of day 2 here, I think we're going to see it twice.
It's very possible. It looks like one of the only hopes here for Janetzky. These Galaka Crawlers are just telling a huge story right now, because it goes back to the point you were making earlier about lineup construction and how what you choose to ban, what you choose to leave up reflects the tech choices of, not only the 3 decks you're confident you're bringing, but then the 4th deck as well. You can see Sjow is bringing Paladin as, the deck that he's bringing in alongside the power classes. And then because he is choosing to leave up Rogue, he understands that he needs that extra help in the matchup.
And notice the timing here from Janetzky on when this South Sea Captain came down. It's right into Sjow's turn 6. If Sjow happens to have a second Galaka Crawler, that means there's no Tarim, there's no Cairn, and there's no Spike Ridge Steed. This timing from Janetzky on the South Sea Captain is the important thing to look at here. Not that he's running into a Galaka Crawler sometimes, but that getting Galaka Crawler means it disrupts some of Sjow's most powerful turns.
Oh, and look at the response from Sjow. Just to say, no, sir, I will not allow you to disrupt my Cairn turn. This Cairn is coming down anyway.
And now what does that buy Janetzky here? He gets to value trade over a Galaka Crawler if he wants. He can weaken the Cairn right away. And because he Shadow Stepped that Saronite, he's about to put 4 minions on turn going into his Bone Mare turn. Janetzky has found a brilliant line of play to pull him back into this game. I am sad to think that one of these two guys is going to be 100% donezo after this match, because this is some quality play that's going on.
It certainly is. We're enjoying this matchup enormously already, and we're only in the early stages of it.
Here we go.
Oh.
It's that Janetzky instinct.
Yeah.
But if I hit him in the face, then he has less life.
I mean, it's certainly the natural play to make, right? Like, sight unseen, we're staring at this Galaka Crawler and, begging him to take the value trade to take some of this value before this gets eaten. But you had a dagger up, and there was a 1 health minion on the board, and you have plenty of health to play with. That is just the natural play, and now
Did you see Janetzky's face when that happened?
Reacted viscerally to that second Galaka Crawler coming out.
That is pure, and I love seeing that when Janetzky goes, he doesn't have Galaka Crawler. he played the Karen instead, and then he sees it and he goes, "You got me."
Yeah. And here's the thing. That Galaka Crawler that was in hand, we're pretty confident was the one that was kept in Mulligan, which means that is kind of entry-level hand reading as a professional Hearthstone player, like keeping track of a card that someone kept in their opening hand. Which cards are being kept in your opening hand as a Paladin that have not yet been played in this matchup? War Leader? No. Gentle Megasword? No. Are those cards that you even keep against Rogue? I'm not even sure. Like the early game 1-drops and 2-drops would have all been played in this position. Rallying Blade has been played already. What card is it?
Yeah, could it have been a second Rallying Blade?
Right.
You know, could it have been like maybe Hydrologist that couldn't come down because he had to play the Rallying Blade, but he would have played the Hydrologist over the first Galaka Crawler in that spot.
Yep.
By process of elimination, you can narrow that down very close to Galaka Crawler, I think. And some of the best hand readers in the world, I think, would have narrowed it down to exactly Galaka Crawler. But that is an excellent point to be making. Is you know, this is a very long tournament. They played 6 rounds yesterday. Players had to travel here to get to this point. It takes a lot of mental energy to focus just on what your game plan is, let alone to track the location of cards in your opponent's hand and then be actively making those deductions to have those reads. That's a tall order. But the best of the best make it happen.
In the meantime, this Tyrion is huge because Janetzky was watching that turn play out and just staring at that deckhand Cold Blood combination in his hand, hoping against hope that it was enough to get him over the line. But Sjow has Curator, Noble Sacrifice, and Tyrion all available to shut down face damage right now.
Tyrion was quite a huge draw.
Yes.
There's not really much way to slice it. And no Vile Spine for Janetzky right now. If this was a Vile Spine turn, I think he pulls away with the game. Just barely. And so, in my head, what Lich King card gets him out of this situation? I'm thinking Death and Decay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you Frostmourne down the Tyrion ever?
I'm going to go with a hard no on that one, Admirable.
It's going to have to be something.
That seems like you die from where I'm standing.
Doom Pact?
Mm-hmm.
Can Doom Pact get him out of it?
He needs damage. He needs to rip direct damage out of Show's deck, and that's just not there in the form of minions, I don't think.
Doom Pact? Doom Pact is the blow up all the minions one.
Sorry. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, Sottle had an idiot moment. I'm sucking it back. I've played my Gul'dan. I think that could bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
And Sjow is value trading here. Is he value trading or is he pushing? He's value trading. So now Sjow has missed some of the damage. This means that Janetzky has 3 turns to kill Sjow. With 14 life, he is just inside the range for 3 Ashbringer attacks. Doom Pact is the start of this, but how much damage can he nail afterwards? And I think Janetzky is on the verge of taking this game here. And those burns are welcome sights for Janetzky right now. He is looking for specifically Leroy Jenkins.
Yep. Even then, I mean, he is not far away right now. There is a Noble Sack tanking damage, but he already has Deckhand Cold Blood for 6, SI for 8, and a Dagger for 9. 1 point of that damage is going to get lost to that Noble Sacrifice. He's so close.
I think he might have this here. Sjow is going to need to find some way to continue to disrupt this. And so I'm thinking if he draws another Hydrologist from the Curator, that could be a way to do it. Any big taunt, but not Zubot.
That's a Zubot that he put in his deck on purpose.
Yeah, he crushed this tournament with this Zubot so far. 4-2, of course, but 4-2 is a respectable record. But he doesn't have another way to disrupt here. The main objective for Sjow right now is making sure that this Curator soaks some damage. Does that mean you don't go face with the Ashbringer? Does that mean you definitely go face with it so that way the Curator soaks the damage on board?
Right, I mean, what does hitting one of these 2 minions here play around? You're not clearing the board, so Cold Blood still has a target, Bone Mare still has a target. No effect against Vile Spine Slayer, you take the damage either way.
And I think his time to kill moves up by attacking face with Ashbringer.
Right.
That puts his time to kill on 2, actually, because he has the Zubat. Curator, I'm assuming Curator dies in that sequence. Wow. Is that the Control Warrior instincts coming in? And Janetzky still does not know what this secret is.
Nope.
Redemption, Getaway Kodo, or Noble Sacrifice. It's one of those 3.
It's not. It is because the secret was in play before he cast Doom Pact, and none of the minions were returned to hand. Nothing came back to life.
So it's exactly Noble Sacrifice.
It's exactly Noble Sacrifice.
Here we go.
Well, that's a big piece of information. That means the Cold Blood's going to get through Curator. And now, more power or defense? And I think it's more power.
Yeah, you're definitely opening yourself up to lethal outs, but you're not really giving yourself a ton of lethal outs the other way. So Sjow here now has a lot of combinations for lethal himself.
That is not a defensive card. So now Sjow is going to have to move in on either a way to eliminate the entire board or defend himself.
Yep.
The way to eliminate is not there. Sjow needs a way to deal extra damage, or he's got to nail 2 taunts.
Plus attack, Wind Fury, or Taunt for defense.
Wind Fury!
The Wind Fury snap pick. Sjow is going to square up the series. Super back and forth battle between the 2 tempo-based decks. Paladin off the power of those Galacta Crawlers, the lineup choices that we were talking about before, keeping in mind what you're targeting, what you're not through the use of your ban. Galacta Crawler coming into that deck to give that extra game against Rogue, and it paid out big for Sjow. But the interaction specifically between the 2 Galacta Crawlers, one being played for no value, and then the bluff of just playing the can, convincing that the Galacta Crawler wasn't there. Janetzky turned down a value trade, got punished way harder. That game was so close that all of those minor little decisions, mind games, mental tricks they were playing on each other, all of those things mattered because the margins were so fine.
The other big thing to look at is the timing from Janetzky on the South Sea Captain, where Sjow doesn't take the bait and disrupt his big play to land Galacta Crawler value. He risks leaving it up, and Janetzky reads that as no Galacta Crawler.
Yep.
Like that is an enormous high-level thought play that happens just on that turn 6 thing. When your opponent has availability to punish your cards, your objective should be to force them to play those cards when they have other big available plays. Against Paladin, that means typically turn 6. Their 6-mana turn. If they play a tech card, it means they're not playing Spike Ridge Steed, and that sounds pretty good to me.
Sjow considering throwing away the Hydrologist. This is something that I do support when you are playing aggressive decks against very robust control decks. Sometimes just having a card that says 1 or 2 on it is not good enough. You want the right 1s and 2s. You want the ones that are incredibly effective, put on pressure, i.e. 1/3 into Rockpool Hunter. Sjow, though, just deciding that Hydrologist is good enough. He knows that any amount of pressure here, if he's able to pick up a Rockpool Hunter, he can go coin Hydrologist into Rockpool Hunter. If he doesn't, he picks up War Leader like he has in this spot, then he has Hydrologist into War Leader, or he has Hydrologist into coin Megasaur. All of these are available plays to ramp up huge amounts of pressure on the board. So with all those things considered, just chooses to hang on to that guaranteed Murloc.
And the redemption over the Kodo here is a big telltale that Sjow very much needs the aggression to win this matchup. If Janetzky's playing Control Warlock, and that means he will be able to blow up a lot of stuff this game. The best way to fight back against that is minions that live through dying. Call back to the Harvest Golem that we've talked about multiple times this match. A minion that lives when it dies means it deals extra damage. And Sjow needs to find a window of opportunity to kill Janetzky when he doesn't have quite the amount of time he needs to spend his big removal spells.
But admirable. A wise man once told me that when you kill things, then they're dead.
That typically is true. But when Redemption's in play, it's not always the case. Notice the power that Tar Creeper is providing here, and the counterplay that has often been looked at when fighting against this card. Instead of attacking through it directly and giving your opponent value. You instead just wait, and you build a board. You force your opponent to continue to try to fight on even footing with you, so that way you can take advantage of the fact that they're spending these defensive spells that are meant to disrupt your game plan.
Yes.
Janetzky wants to Hellfire at some point. He wants to cast Twisting Nether at some point. The more stuff he's got on board, the harder that is to do. And so waiting against Tar Creeper is one of the best counterplays I think that's been drawn against this card because of how tough it is for Janetzky to be making these strong plays. And so it leads to situations like this, where now he puts more stuff on board. Say that one or two of these sticks around, Hellfire looks a little bit worse. You are making a sacrifice of something else.
Yeah, the counterplay to when the opponent chooses not to attack into your Tar Creeper, the counterplay to that, as the player who's played the Tar Creeper, is often to say, okay, here's a key minion that I will now play and hide behind my Tar Creeper that you haven't played. Janetzky wasn't able to do that because the only other developmental plays he had there were other taunt minions, which don't affect the combat maths on the board. When everything has taunt, then nothing has taunt. So actually in this position, leaving the Tar Creeper up in play has worked out beautifully for Sjow.
Yeah, I'm curious if there was a measure to actually play Doomsayer on that turn.
Sure.
Because I think Janetzky can conclude a lot that it is Redemption that hit play. And so if the Doomsayer goes off with the value, he gets to squeeze in a life tap to replace the lost card in the Tar Creeper. And then he gets to roll right into the Despicable Dreadlord. So if it's Redemption, he's wiped out that value, and he gets to put a priority minion on board.
I like that a lot.
But the Doomsayer is going to look good for as long as he's got strong taunt minions in play.
Yeah.
So was it necessary last turn, or can he time this for a better spot? And I think that's what Janetzky's looking at here.
Yeah, it also pairs very nicely with all the AoE he has in hand. There's a high possibility that at some point this game, he gets to go Defile, clear the board, drop Doomsayer, Hellfire, clear the board, drop Doomsayer, or even if he makes it all the way to turn 10, Twisting Nether Doomsayer is just one of the strongest plays in the entire game.
Yeah.
So that is another reason why he may be looking at holding on to that Doomsayer for the long term.
This feels like the opposite of the way these cards work.
Yeah.
Show's just playing minions and they're sitting in play. Janetzky's playing taunts and they're going face. This is a brutal Doomsayer, though. And again, notice the timing of it. It's right into Show's 6-mana turn. He's trying to deny big value from Cairn and from Spike Ridge Steed, and then have ways to fight back against those cards specifically. When I say his 6-mana turn, I do mean with coin in this instance. But timing, I think, has been a big point of this, and he got an additional Gentle Megasaur from waiting.
Yeah, it's paid out big. And now you do see the situation we talked about where this is sometimes the punish for leaving up a Tar Creeper. A key minion gets hidden behind it. In this situation, there are far fewer key minions that address what Sjow is trying to do than a Doomsayer. And it gets to just hide there behind that Tar Creeper. A lowly Hydrologist comes back to life, but Janetzky has made huge inroads into stopping this board development from Sjow.
And now that Abyssal Forcer and Tainted Zealot are available on coming turns, I'm not quite convinced he needs to play this Despicable Dreadlord, which is really telling of how great of a position Janetzky's gotten to this game. When you don't need to play Despicable Dreadlord and you can, you are winning by a significant margin. Now, Hellfire is quite interesting here as well with the Tainted Zealot. You get to push 4, clear the board, keep Dreadlord as a 4-1 and a 1-1 Tainted Zealot.
That looks strong. At the same time, so does just having a 6/6 in play.
I don't know if I'd rather have Abyssal Man or 4/5 man. I think they're both very good. Janetzky wants bigger things.
What this does do is, you talked earlier, you said the 6-mana turn when it was 5+ coin. Well, this is now the 8-mana turn where it's 7+ coin. Having a 6/6 in play does allow him to deal with Tyrion on the follow-up.
That's true. That's an excellent point. Would he have been able to deal with Tyrion anyway, though? He'd be down to Hellfire, of course, but he'd be able to then run into Tainted Zealot, run into Despicable, and then Abyssal that. And so he would have Abyssal versus
You're right.
Ashbringer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Wow, this is a weird game. But every way you slice it, it looks like Janetzky is just slowly but surely pulling further and further ahead. He's got both Twisting Nethers. He's got a reasonable life total. He's got a taunt to put in a way of damage that is strictly looking to be pushed from Sjow. And it's a matter of time until he finds Goal Man.
He does have 15 damage coming back at him, though, from the Ashbringer, which is making Tar Creeper and Stonehill Defender incredibly crucial draws to pick up.
Stonehill looks so good right now. And mind you, one of these players is not going to be drawing 2 cards a turn. Right. Spoiler alert, it's Sjow.
I mean,
oh my.
Sure?
The embarrassment of riches for Janetzky.
Sjow gives out the nod, which I'm pretty sure his mental dialogue right now is, sure?
Or, please no, not like this. And as the Abyssal summons fire all around you, he's going, this is fine. I have a Hydrologist. I am seriously considering eye for an eye at this stage to just try and push back 6 damage.
I think with the minions you're developing, though, this Abyssal Enforcer doesn't hit your face, though, right? That's the issue with that line of play.
It doesn't necessarily hit your Scalebane with the Noble Sacrifice either. So, quite a decent payday here for the Hydrologist. I love watching Janetzky's cursor. Just jot to everything on screen at all times and constantly looking at deck size and trying to factor in at what point can I turn this into a battle where I can just literally kill all of Show's cards instead of killing him. Which is my personal favorite thing to do, is just blow up all of someone else's cards.
Hey, if you talk to Firebat, though, it's Murloc Paladin that fatigues other decks.
That's at times, yeah.
Yeah.
He has quite a brilliant mind when it comes to that style of game plan, though.
I agree.
He looks at the game very differently than a lot of people do, in that he tries to find alternative modes of thought. And that sometimes leads to these strokes of brilliance, where you find a game plan that nobody else is prepared for. Right. And Firebat has told me that Purple is the best fatigue player in the world. And watching Purple at the Summer Championships use Evolve Shaman to fatigue out Tom's Control Mage was quite the moment when I looked at it and went, I agree.
Yeah.
Purple is the best at this.
It was indeed a thing of beauty. Using the anti-magic shell to prevent any water elementals being generated, and then recognizing a fatigue game plan from a very, very long way out was a beautiful piece of play. What was really an incredibly high-level event from top to bottom.
Yes, it was. And I remember you and I sitting backstage, looking up and going, oh, comments.
Yeah,
and 3 or 4 turns later, we look back and I was like, wait a minute.
Wait, Purple did a smart thing.
Purple's still playing the game. Like, he would have just conceded by now.
Right.
And then about 9 cards left of the deck, we realize Purple's going to fatigue him. Beautiful moment.
We grew together. I felt a bond develop between us at that time.
We became one.
Yep. 2.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, Show's gonna die. It's gonna take some time, but he's losing his board, and Janetzky's gonna bring back a board, and then he's gonna deal him a lot of damage and gain a lot of life.
Did I mention how insane Twisting Nether Doomsayer was at any point in this game?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could remember was that Vile Spine is just totally overrated by most people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Good looking out, Admirable.
Wise check for any shenanigans here as well, and says, you know what? Doesn't matter. I guess I'll just Gul'dan now.
I mean, the thing is, he gets the Dreadlord back, right? So that's taking care of a huge amount of the power in play anyway, because it was 1 health minions, and then he's just in such a good spot regardless.
Is the Voidwalker, Despicable Dreadlord, Abyssal Enforcer, is this the unholy trinity?
Sure. Let's go with that. Why not? Sjow more or less obligated now.
While I admire his efforts, they are futile.
Yes. I was going to say more or less obligated to start trading over these minions and go back to board control, because He's not going to race down the Gul'dan hero power. Suckman is in full effect.
Yeah. I mean, look at what Janetzky could suck the Murlocs, he could suck the Tarim, he could suck face. Doesn't matter what he sucks with right now. They're all good.
I'm definitely 12. All right.
I believe it was me who said Twisting Nether plus Gul'dan hero power is a very good play. Normally, I'd say that's pretty good, but Janetzky's just got the answer.
Sjow decides it's giddy up time with the Bone Mare, but it's looking more like givey up time to me. Because he just has to connect that hero power to face 3 more times, and this game is donezo. Now,
there are some people who think that you should just start killing minions here instead.
Yes.
Okay, shots fired. Maybe a little too soon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ecop's is a nice guy, but when you troll people as much as Ecop trolls people,
you got to troll him back.
Exactly.
He likes it.
Yeah.
I think Janetzky is seriously considering how do I not show my second Hellfire or my second Twisting Nether this game. Because if he wins this game, he sticks onto this deck. So Sjow having information that he's got a second Twisting Nether could affect the way that he plays future turns. And I think that is exactly what Janetzky's thinking about here. Don't show second Twisting Nether. Maybe that changes some of Show's future plays.
Yeah. Now he's a very tidy defile clear there, taking 3 off the first, 2 off the second to clear up the 5 health minions. Doomsayer is the free tempo turn. And now this is just an inevitable march towards victory for Janetzky, who clears it up with the Hellfire. 2 games to 1 up now.
30 health to spare at the end of the game.
Yeah, and even in that position, is it even worth using the Hellfire there? As the player that's about to re-queue the same deck again, you are revealing a second Hellfire in a game that you'd 100% won.
I don't think so. Even if I had like a 5% chance to lose, I'd probably still just keep it.
Really?
I'm just cool like that. Because if I lose, that's memorable forever, right?
Sure. Yeah, no, there is EV in people remembering your name as that idiot that just didn't Hellfire someone for lethal.
It's the orange overdraw conundrum.
Sure.
Do you want the highlight or do you want to win? Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Game 4, and Show's got work to do. This matchup, I don't think is the worst thing in the world for Sjow. I think it's quite good for the most part. However, we did see a Medivh in Janetzky's mulligan. And so what that means is in this matchup, those 2 Twisting Nethers can be turned into threats at some point. I've played a lot of Control Warlock versus Druid because Druid was all people would play on ladder for a good 4-week span while I enjoyed Warlock.
Yep.
I had about a 15% win rate, but in every single one of those games I won, Medivh and Twisting Nether played a role.
I remember us putting together a Control Warlock deck that actually had a slightly more successful win rate against Druid because we slammed Deathwing in the end as well. And then,
I remember that.
Yeah, our game plan was essentially just, Medivh, and then we Twisting Nether, get an 8-drop, Twisting Nether, get an 8-drop, and then Deathwing, the last wave of Jades that came after that.
To deal the last 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what seems a lot more simple than that is just putting a Geist in your deck. But who wants to do that? That's boring.
Yeah. I do recall adding the Geist as well at some point.
And on that note, we haven't seen a Geist in Janetzky's Warlock deck so far.
That's right.
Which I think is actually unique from what we've seen on stream. Every time we've seen a Control Warlock play against a lineup and leave up Druid, we have seen them packing a Geist.
That's right. And so Janetzky has gone for the alternative of saying, you know what, I can win just enough of the time with Medivh that I'm not too worried about this. Part of his thinking, I think, lines up with the way that people's lineups will be constructed, where he says, I can afford to sacrifice a ton of win rate against Druid with my Warlock deck, knowing that I have Priest ready to go against Druid right after that.
Sjow is kind of drawing the wrong end of his deck here. He does have the Nourish, which is great, but Galaka Crawler and Spreading Plagues are not the cards you're looking for. It's kind of those necessary evils in this kind of matchup where you have to have those cards in your deck. The Spreading Plague at least, Galaka Crawlers we can argue about, to secure yourself against the aggro matchup.
That's right.
They are big whiffs when you come up against a deck where you are the aggressor.
Now that can change if Sjow has his own Medivh in deck. That suddenly Spreading Plague becomes an actual threat at that point. So I do quite like playing Medivh in a lot of Druid decks where it wasn't too long ago, actually DreamHack Denver, where I was very opposed to the idea. I hadn't come to terms with how much power you had lost with Innervate becoming 1 man instead of 2.
Right.
I was still convinced that Druid was favored in these long style matchups by a huge margin. I believe that has changed, and I am now in favor of Medivh in these style of decks.
This Mark of the Lotus is an incredible draw, Admirable. Would you have any word that would describe this draw, perhaps the size of this draw?
It's big, large, gigantic.
I'm not feeling it. No, I'm not.
It's huge.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That prompts Janetzky to start paying attention to this. And Sjow's got quite a bit to back this up. Another Jade thing, a Malfurion to start pouring on damage, and then an Ultimate Infestation for the second reload. And this is where Janetzky is going to start struggling.
Yeah, and I do want to go back to the point you were talking about the loss of Innovate. It's why I personally think Medivh and Mark of the Lotus are both mandatory in Jade Druid right now, because in the current metagame, you have to have tempo swings in basically every deck. It's kind of what the metagame is dictated by, is kind of mid-game tempo swings. Druid used to do that with Innovate. They can't do that anymore. So they need other tools in their deck to be able to spend unfair amounts of mana to be able to swing ahead of their opponent. How do they do that? With tools like Kun, with tools like Medivh, and with tools like Mark of the Lotus.
You know, that's an interesting thing you point out to me, because a lot of that came about simply because of the change to Spreading Plague moving up,
Yeah.
Innervate moving down, and Fiery War Axe becoming 3 mana.
Right.
The changes of these very strict tempo plays that we had known throughout Hearthstone history, when they were thrown into this upheaval, we started seeing decks take a lot of time to reach their final form. I mean, think about how many iterations Rogue went through before we eventually took out Plagued Scientist from the deck, realizing it didn't make the cut. It was a while, and that change early on set about this creative mode that went through this metagame, where even today, on one of the final tournaments in this metagame, we're seeing innovation in lineups.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of the same archetypes, but we're seeing tighter lists. And I think that early balance change was a catalyst to everything that we've seen in this tournament metagame so far, which has been fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see this become a standard thing from the developers, where a mid-expansion balance patch just became a thing that happened every time. I think it is fantastic.
You know, I told this to Raven. I told this to Lorinda. If you're going to talk this way to me this early in the day, you're going to have to take me on a date.
Done. Where you want to go? Dinner, movie, walk on the beach?
I'll take all 3.
All right, beautiful.
Hey, I'll take 2 out of 3. That ain't even that bad.
Okay.
Sjow is looking mighty good in this game, though.
I did like the Coin Abyssal from Janetzky on that turn. There were a lot of implications. It slows down his Lich King. It slows down a Gul'dan if that gets drawn, which speeding out a Gul'dan is another way you can potentially get an advantage in this matchup. But he needed to make a play that got him ahead on the board, and that was his first opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah.
If you don't ever do that against Jade Druid, you get stuck in this endless sinking vortex where you are just removing a wave of Jades over and over again. And as we found, unless you have a Deathwing to end all of that off at the end, you come up 1 turn short. There's 1 wave of Jades that you eventually then can't deal with.
Yeah. It's very akin to the Asotl sucking away intelligence cycle, where it just keeps happening over and over, and it never stops. This is dire territory for Janetzky, where sacrifices will have to be made if he's going to get out of this. Blunder.
Yeah. This is a very common mistake with Tainted Zealot and Defile, is that the Defile does not necessarily kill a minion immediately. People just mentally clock that the Defile kills the Tainted Zealot every time, whereas the actual power of that combination is the exact fact that that doesn't happen.
It's so weird, because that's like an actual thing that happens a lot. And I've done it multiple times. I've seen people do it multiple times. And I watch streams of some of the best players in the world, and they're talking to their chat, and then suddenly they do the exact same thing, and I'm like, why does this one happen so often?
Right.
Something about the way Tainted Zealot's looking at you. It just looks like it's going to die.
It's a Geist.
He does have Geist! That changes everything that we've set up to this point.
Yep.
Now, the perfect time to use Geist in this matchup is when your opponent has shuffled Jade Idols and then drawn a lot of cards and can't necessarily cast those Jade Idols they draw afterwards. What happens is then you occupy a lot of the cards they drew by ripping them from their hand with the Geist effect.
Sure.
In addition to Medivh and Lich King being more powerful plays this turn, the timing of Geist is actually really important as well. Right now, if Sjow has 1-cost cards in hand, it means that Janetzky playing Geist means that sometimes Sjow will not be burning his next draw. I would like to see him use either Lich King or Medivh in this spot.
Agreed.
And find the right timing for that Geist instead.
And for me, it's Lich King because I do not think a high-cost spell is being played on the following turn. It's just a matter of whether, like, Janetzky, no, he's going to go play the Geist. I'm not a fan of this play. I want to see an 8-drop come down.
I think the life total could be affecting him somewhat here. But if that's the case, I like the Lich King even more because of that. Because now at 10 life, he is dead to what Sjow has in hand. It is attack with hero power and double swipe. Am I reading this wrong? Janetzky's at 10, right?
Yep.
Oh, Sjow's just showing off.
Yeah,
here.
it's
okay.
it's a could.
Woo!
It's a could, Nathan.
Woo!
Calm down. Calm down.
I was like, what? What's
Slow
going on?
your roll, buddy. Got to make sure you get the sequencing right as well, but of course they have to be dead when the Mistress dies, or else the Mistress will heal them back up as well. So Sjow is just taking his time, getting first his sequencing correct, and then secondly his BM on point, thirdly giving that admirable a heart attack.
My goodness. You know, I'm curious if there's ever a point there where Sjow's like, I don't know if he dies or not. Nah, I might as well play the Kun first.
You know.
Just to make sure.
You know. You've hellfired enough zombie chows in your time to know that works.
I don't know if I know that. I know it now because I just saw it, but
Okay.
I wasn't sure I knew it at the time. But Game 5, critical here, and I would say Janetzky has the edge in the matchup.
Yeah, we have tussled on this one in the past.
I was 2-minute innervate when I was preaching Druid.
No, I mean, you've felt this as Priest favored recently, and I think Druid is still favored.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, I'm ready to throw down an argument here.
I'm not going to use this game as any kind of example because you're looking at Wild Growth Aya, which is unfair.
Well, I'm also looking at Northshire Acolyte Raza Anduin.
This is re-entered into evidence.
That's it. This is the game to determine once and for all. Is Druid or Priest favored? This game will settle it.
All right, let's go.
Sjow.
Stretching his arms
Yep,
as
he's
he's
like-
about to do with his mana.
He's like, okay, this is the turn where I have to plan out the rest of the game.
Yep.
Do I coin Wild Growth? I agree with no.
Yeah, coin Wild Growth goes to 3, then Wild Growth again goes to 5, and then question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, what are you going into?
There's not a profit after that question mark sequence yet.
Right away.
Now, if he draws Nourish, he might be a little sad.
Sure.
This is looking like the makings of the two best decks in the game, hitting both of their curves in stride.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's favored from this spot.
Yeah, if a regular game of Hearthstone is a regular boxing match, then this game of Hearthstone is a boxing match from a Rocky movie.
Yeah.
Just two overpowered, muscle-bound idiots wailing on each other for an hour straight.
You're like, how can you take that many hits in the head
You
before
just
you just
can't.
don't fall?
You would be dead.
Apollo died.
That's true. All right.
Spoiler alert.
Stand corrected.
In case you haven't seen the 26-year-old movie, spoiler alert, Apollo dies. I'm sorry if you're on the second one.
There's just one guy who's just never seen the series.
He's like, what does?
He's sitting at home right now. This is on a second monitor, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to catch up with the rock. What the hell?
Wow. Does that ever prompt you to want to save that Shadow Visions? Oh, you slammed the Power Word Shield here, I think.
Circle of Healing with a Cleric on board, an Acolyte in play, and a Lyra in hand, though, is definitely worth considering. But yeah, I think what I do in that situation is I try and convince myself that Circle of Healing is really cool, and then I take the Power Word Shield and cast it.
Wow, I'm actually quite surprised that the Power Word Shield lands on the Cleric instead of the Acolyte here.
I am too.
Is that a nod to Spellbreaker?
Did he see Spellbreaker?
You might assume it's there.
Sure.
I'm quite intrigued by that. Oh, you know what it is? It's a setup exactly for this turn, where if Sjow plays Aya, then Janetzky gets to play Raza, trade in the Acolyte, draw 2 from the Northshire Cleric. Because he gets to draw off the Acolyte and off the Northshire Cleric, and he wants to ensure the Northshire Cleric lives in this spot. Like maybe it's like a Jade card in Wrath, where the Acolyte will only draw 1 card immediately, the Northshire will always draw a card immediately, potentially draw 2 cards.
Sure. The Acolyte is just such a powerful long-term engine, though. It's so hard for Druid to be able to deal 5 damage to something in one chunk, whereas they don't have to deal 5 damage to a Cleric in one chunk to get rid of it. Should add an asterisk to that. When they do not have 10 mana available to them, it's very hard for them to deal 5 damage to something.
It's also very hard to not have 10 mana available to them. It happens on like turn 2.
That is true. Turn 2.
And suddenly, this is looking like a problem for Sjow.
Yes.
The damage that can potentially come in from this Raza cannot be ignored, I don't think, in this spot.
Yeah, and the Raza and Anduin here are enormous for Janetzky, and this is something that goes without saying, and it's one of those kind of redundant casterisms that we're pretty much all sick of saying right now, that these things have a huge effect on every matchup. But in this one, I think it's particularly massive, because one of the reasons why I would actually be happy queuing Druid into a Rizaka's Priest on average is that I think Jade Druid, when there is a Raza or an Anduin that is buried in the bottom 6, bottom 7, bottom 8 cards, I think you win all of those games.
I would tend to agree.
Pretty much every single one. And that is happening. You're pushing up towards 30% that happens, that one of those 2 cards is in your last 8 to 10 cards. So you don't actually have to have that high a win rate in the remaining games to find your way over the 50% mark. The problem is, when they do draw Raza and Anduin, your win rate is really not that high. So it's very hard to know where it comes down mathematically, unless you really sit down and crunch all the numbers. But yes, if you are sat there on an opening hand that has both Raza and Anduin in it, you are in incredibly good shape as the Priest.
And I want to mind you, we did agree to use this game as the once and for all, which is favored.
I am a Welcher in name only, not in reputation, so I will agree to honor, and I will never mention it again.
Silence is going to wipe out the Jade ramp as well. And I'll tell you what, I think Janetzky is close to locking this game.
I agree. And I am close to locking my mouth.
I do want you to talk about how impactful it was to be incorrect in the circumstance, though. I would take great pleasure in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I got you.
Woohoo!
I'm still not tired of that.
Oh, you never will be. That's one of the classics.
But I feel like I should hate that noise because it's the sound of me. Like, I know I'm playing against Jade Druid when I hear that noise.
Sometimes it means you're against Jade Shaman, though.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm delighted when that's the case.
That's a free win.
Yeah, for Janetzky, this is going through the motions. It's making sure that you're not missing something.
Yeah.
Like, can a big Forgotten King turn just wipe him out? I think yes, still.
Sure.
But it would require a significant amount of gasoline in Sjow's hand to get that done.
Kun Ui is definitely frightening in this spot, and Janetzky is my boy, going straight for the 1-mana potion. I'm a huge fan of 1-mana potions in this deck.
You know, I'm going to have a throwback moment here. The first person I saw to take a 1-cost potion was Dude7597. He played turn 3 Bran for tempo, and turn 4 he played Kazakus, and he took 2 1-cost potions off of it.
Boom.
And he destroyed his opponent as a result. From that point forward, I had tried as many 1-cost potions as I could in every scenario, just to make sure that I knew exactly when to not take a 1-cost potion.
Sure.
So thank you, Dude7597. You taught me a very valuable lesson.
This is not the Kun UI, which would have been the completely backbreaking play available, but it's not bad. Kun into Fandral Wrath is an excellent start, but Swipe not looking exactly mind-blowing on this board.
It helps, but it's not enough help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering whether it's even better to just jam a 2-3, but I think the Swipe just about clears up enough that the power swing makes sense from Sjow's position.
I think Sjow has to draw exactly Ultimate Infestation next turn, or he's done.
Sure.
And this is a situation I've seen many times. No matter what, you ignore the other 9 cards in your hand and you play Shadow Reaper Anduin. It often is not of consequence to hold it. You usually will still win due to the massive swing that it provides. But the sooner you play it, usually the better you're off.
In this position, your opponent is at 20. It's not like you haven't got some chip damage in the whole game. You've done a large chunk of your job. The rest of your hand does not cost an enormous amount of mana, so you can just kill them before they start putting 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9 Jades into play.
That is absolutely right.
If you're sure.
Bang.
And I
Take note, Seacop.
talked about the Janetzky aggression, and he has followed suit at every step of the way.
I mean, I'm joking, and again, I'm sorry, Seacop. You're just such a fun target. But the real point, there is a 2-2 on that board that he could have shot with a hero power. No inclination to do so whatsoever. Just slams it to face immediately.
And that is heaps of damage coming up. Mind Blast, Smite, Circle of Healing, Radiant Elemental, you name it. Janetzky is going to win Game 5 here versus Sjow and keep his DreamHack hopes alive. Although he is from Finland, it is Sjow who is Finnish.
You're the worst human being on earth. Cleaning up the last few morsels. Shadower Pain target goes through. Shadower Death target available as well. But the Novice is going to finish the job. Janetzky does pick up a huge win because, again, these players were on 2 losses already, and 3rd loss is donezo the way this tournament is playing out, which means that is probably goodbye to Sjow, but Janetzky marches on with a good chance, and I believe we were told that both of these players have above-average tiebreakers right now, which is putting Janetzky in a good position as well.